questions that I have answers. I got a question from a member in my life, not from a video, who wanted to know, could you explain what a Cabber-Gaw, a Gabber-Gaw, and a Jibber-Jabberjaw, could you explain those terms and the differences among them? Yes, I can. Here goes. But yeah, Jabberjaw. That's I did a whole video about Jabberjaw yesterday. Jibber-Jabberjaw and Gabber-Gaw. Gabber-Gaw is another slang that I made up. A Gabber-Gaw. It's I attribute it to the old Irish for it's like someone who talks, like a gabber, someone who gabs. He's got the gift of gab, right? That's an Irish thing, having the gift of gab. So they're gabbers. And gaw is the Irish for, I think, it could be the Irish for jaw. It sounds like jaw. And it also rhymes with G. It's a Gabber Gaw. Otherwise it would be Gabber-Jaw. That would make more sense. Gabber-Jaw, that's what it means. It's your talk mouth. Your Gabber-Jaw. You're a Gabber-Jaw if you're a talker. But you're not a Gabber-Jaw. In Irish, it's Gabber-Gaw. That's my slang. It's a Gabber-Gaw. Yeah. Of course we did. We turned it. We turned it into Jibber-Jabberjaw, which is the American version of it. You're a talker. You like to talk a lot. You're a Jibber-Jabberjaw. It comes from it's the American version of the Irish Cabber-Gaw. A Cabber-Gaw is what they call it in Irish. Because gaw, because gaw is like Irish for jaw, like your mouth, like your jaw. And a gabber, someone who talks. So you got a talky mouth. In Ireland, you're a Gabber-Gaw. Yeah. And in America, we changed the name to be, for Americans, it's called Jibber-Jabberjaw. But it's the same thing. It's somebody who just talks a lot, right? Like, I'm a Jibber-Jabberjaw. But sometimes I like to go old school, like the old Irish, and I call myself a Cabber-Gaw. It's a different type, actually. It's not simply just, they're not 100% the same thing. They're both talker guys, the guys who talk with but the Jibber-Jabberjaw is a little bit different. The Cabber-Gaw is a little more old school, if you will. Like if you're a Cabber-Gaw, you got a tradition behind you. It's like an oral tradition. There's stylistics involved. It's a little bit more storytellerish than just random, talking. Jibber-Jabberjaw's American versions don't have that tradition. I mean, other than that came from the Irish, but like they twisted it into America. It wasn't just Irish people anymore doing it. And they brought their own talkative traditions to it. And it's a lot more sillier and less traditional than a Cabber-Gaw. And Deckard likes to be a Gabber-Gaw about it rather than a Jibber-Jabberjaw. And Looch is for sure a Gabber-Gaw. He's a Cabber-Gaw, which is it's got to be, anyway, like Looch is a Jibber-Jabberjaw because it's American, but his style is even more storyish than a Cabber-Gaw's. Because he's a Cabber-Gaw, because he's a cabbie, and they have to kind of tell stories, or else their fares will just tell him to shut up or get out of the cab, right? So he's got to be even more traditional. So Looch is a Cabber-Gaw. So you got Jibber-Jabberjaws, you got Gabber-Gaws, and then you got Cabber-Gaws. Yeah. And so it's just my style is to be more of a Cabber-Gaw about it than a Jibber-Jabberjaw. Sometimes that can be jibber-jabberish. Shut your jibber-jabber, right? For sure, sometimes that can be. Jabber. It's the same thing as a gabber. It's a jibber-jabber. And America's got its own twist on it. So you're a Jibber-Jabberjaw. Because a Jabberjaw is just like a talker. A Jibber-Jabberjaw is a talker. A Gabber Gaw is another talker. Now, Cabber-Gaw is the type of Jibber-Jabberjaw that follows the old traditions of the Irish. So it's like a Gabber Gaw more than a Jabberjaw. A Jibber-Jabberjaw. So it follows the Irish traditions of a Gabber Gaw. But it's still a Jibber-Jabberjaw. It's Americanized. It comes from driving in cabs. The particular parts of the Jibber-Jabberjaw that are accentuated in the Cabber-Gaw is the storytelling parts and the traditional parts that are in the Gabber-Gaw. It's like the Jibber-Jabberjaw came from the Gabber-Gaw and then became its own American thing, but there were traditions within the American Jibber-Jabberjaw that are Gabber-Gaw-like, and that one of them is the Cabber-Gaw, or like the cabbie, the talkative cab driver. Looch is a Cabber-Gaw. Deckard is a Jibber-Jabberjaw, but he would like to consider himself a Gabber Gaw, but he's not. He is half Irish, but he didn't grow up in that tradition. He claims he has roots in it, though, and he does seem like, for a talker, an old soul talker. Like he comes from the Gabber Gaw tradition, which is more of a lyrical style. There's more flow in the flow. Then Jibber-Jabberjaw is more about the, like the attitude in the flow. It's more about being, like, bringing attention to your flow. Whereas the Gabber Gaw is more about just flowing with your flow. Not trying to be awesome. Both of them are flowing with the flow, but the Gabber Gaw wants to flow and knowingly with this flow. And the Jibber-Jabberjaw, although knowingly flowing with their flow, they're more interested in the way they are expressing their flow. That's what I'm saying. The priorities are different. It's very much like expressivist talking, my school of talking. The Gabber Gaws aren't coherent. It's all poetry. It's all expressivism. But the Gabber Gaws are the traditional, more lyrical, more storytelling, maybe more like the coherentist school of oratory sciences. My counter school to my own school, which is all about how I'm trying to say it. Right? That's the expressivist school. And so Gabber Gaw and Jibber-Jabberjaw are both expressivisms. And what I'm trying to explain is, like, Deckard really feels like he's in the soul of a Gabber Gaw, that traditional. Like, that'd be like learning Latin, right? Like, nobody needs to learn, per se, unless you're like a connoisseur. So I guess he could be a Gabber Gaw. But Looch is a Cabber-Gaw for sure, which is a type of Jibber-Jabberjaw, not a type of Gabber Gaw. It borrows from Gabber Gaw, not least of which its rhyming name, but, like, also its storytelling elements. It's not so lyrical. It's more pointed, as the Jibber-Jabberjaw, American Jibber-Jabberjaw tends to be. But also, think of it, a cabbie's got to keep the attention, it's got to be going from, different fare to different fare. You gotta relate to people, right? Not just your friends who know you, strangers, in fact. Which means you got to be topical, right? So that's all. It's got to be a little more tactical. Lyricism is less of a priority for the Cabber-Gaw than it is for the Gabber Gaw. Understandably, that's all I'm saying. You have to be a little bit more intentional and pointed and clear, coherentist, if you will, but you still need to be telling a story. You can't just be making jokes or whatever. Could you imagine getting into a cab where the cabbie just tells you bad jokes? Like, he just won't stop, but you're too polite. But, like, it's just, he would stop if you told him, but like, you can't tell him. It's that kind of awkward. Like, boy, I wish he would just shut up. I wish. That guy, that's the guy. I love that guy. I love seeing that guy. I love making fun of that guy. But, like, that guy's a guy too. Like, not making fun of him, but, like, taking that weirdness and trying to do something lovingly funny with it. Like, I love that idea of that know-it-all, whatever those cringy but real, relatable, embarrassing kind of. Some of them are annoying, but it's not about the annoyance. It's just the weird. It's not judgment, but that's the stuff that I'm drawn to. That quirky, no judgment, just whatever quirkiness there is. in an expression or a situation. Like, I'm drawn to that. That's why I make these videos that are so absurdly, whatever they are, nothing. They're just quirky, like, yeah, I'm just talking to myself, that's all. But I'm trying to tell you indirectly why I talk to myself the way I do. It's like because of this type of stuff is what comes to me when I'm talking. It's just these funny little ways to see my life. Sometimes they come out as stories, or sometimes I make them into story. They turn into stories. And sometimes it's a story of weird vocabulary becoming something silly, and other times it's a story of, like, whatever it turned into, it's all fun. And if you can see that, I think that's the audience that I'm looking for. Anyway, I'm gonna go now, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Look, I didn't even. So let me get a formal thank you for bearing with me. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next flip side, which, hell, that could even be later tonight, although I doubt it. Probably tomorrow. All right.